Hello everyone, welcome to Dhandeep Academy. So here we'll be discussing one more question from UPSC PYQs from geography. So there is a question: assess the impact of global warming on coral life systems with examples. If you look at the question in first glance, you will feel that this is a question from environment, but this hasn't been asked in environment. This is a question from GS paper 1 and this is from geography only. Now, what are the requirements of the question? Let us try to decode the question. Now, when we are decoding the question, let us first understand what type of question it is. It's a pretty direct question, right? Directly, you have been asked to assess the impact of global warming on these coral life systems. Other than that, let us understand what are the expectations you are supposed to fulfill in this question. Now, since this is a very contemporary issue, which is often reflecting in current affairs, so one expectation is here that you should be providing data. You should be providing relevant facts and example. Directly there has been mentioning of example, right? So you should be coming up with example and illustrating or substantiating whatever point you are making there. One more thing which most of you are going to miss in this particular question will be maps, right? Draw a neat and labeled map and show wherever we have losses when it comes to coral life systems. Further, let us try to understand how you are supposed to write intro, body and conclusion. If I have to write an introduction for this particular system, particular question, I will go for a fact-based introduction. I can also write here an introduction which will give any current affairs example regarding how there are losses or what kind of losses we have witnessed in coral life system. So these are the two ways, but still I prefer to give a fact regarding the loss of coral or whatever issue we are witnessing when it comes to coral life system. So find some fact. I'll just give you a couple of reports to refer to. So there is one report you should be updated about, that is Charles Wilkins report. Now what this report tells you, so this is a biennial publication and this particular report talks about the status of coral across the globe. Okay, so refer to this particular report and update your data, update your facts regarding corals and coral life systems. So from there you can collect data or collect some fact and write that fact in the introduction. Other than that, you will find data in one more report. That report is IPCC report, and often here or there IPCC would have mentioned what type of losses this global warming is going to do when it comes to coral life system. So that is how I am going to introduce. Now when it comes to body is very static because you just have to assess the impact of global warming. So directly you will be mentioning what are the various impacts of global warming on the coral life system. But whatever impact you are writing, you should be substantiating that particular argument with a data or with an example. So always, whichever subject you are following, try to have this particular format. Like you will have a dimension, right? Further, in a dimension you will have the argument and you will support that argument with one example or with a fact. So make this particular habit. I'll show you what do I mean when I say dimension, when I say argument and when I say examples and facts to substantiate my argument. So that is how I'm going to approach towards body. And finally, while concluding, I will have a way forward. I will mention whatever efforts at a global level we are taking and what all efforts we need to take to control global warming vis-a-vis to stop these coral losses. So that is how you are supposed to approach this particular question. Let's jump onto the question. I have a fact-based introduction. I can either go for recent depletion of coral reefs. I have one IPCC report where I'm talking about 50 to 70% corals are affected due to global warming. Then you can also introduce with the help of El Nino. If you are having a track of current affairs, you would be knowing that recent El Nino event of 2023 has caused massive losses of coral reefs, right? So that is also the way you can introduce for this particular question. Moving on to body. Now, when it comes to body, I have impact, right? So first impact is coral bleaching. So as a result of rising temperature, I am having severe coral bleaching. Now what do I mean? Dimension, argument and example. So coral bleaching is a dimension. This is the argument. Several coral bleaching is there as a result of rising sea temperatures, and I am substantiating this argument with the help of example. So that is how you are supposed to approach. So coral bleaching is there, ocean acidification, and when it comes to ocean acidification, they are also resulting into coral losses. How they are resulting into coral losses? Because there is a higher level of carbon dioxide in the water, which is resulting into acidification of oceans, and when there is acidification of oceans, it will prevent these corals from forming shells, right? These corals are necessarily made up of calcium carbonate, and once I have a lot of carbon dioxide in the sea, they will be difficult to find to form a shell, right? So that is also one issue you are going to find. Then I have coral mortality. Then I have in coral mortality my arguments and examples. I have substantiated it well with facts and figures. Biodiversity loss is a major issue since corals are considered as rainforest of the ocean, so they have a huge biodiversity, and what we are witnessing as a result of global warming, rising sea temperatures, these coral biodiversity regions are seeing a depletion. I have examples of coral triangle, that is Indonesia, Philippines and rest of the region I am mentioning here. Other than that, let's talk about sea level rise. As a result of global warming, I also have a rise in the sea level, and when I have rise in the sea level, what it will result into, because once sea level rises, the sunlight stops penetrating to the depth of these waters, and wherever we have corals, so light is not reaching up to these corals and specifically zooxanthella. Ultimately, it will result into death of the zooxanthella and finally in the death of coral. So these are the impacts you are supposed to provide. Now I can have a map, just draw a map, and wherever we are having losses in corals or issues with coral, show these areas on these maps, right? So I have not drawn a map, but you are supposed to draw a map. Further, when it comes to way forward, I can have Coral Triangle Initiative, Great Barrier Reef Foundation and mentioning of Coral Restoration Foundation. You can mention all these initiatives which have been taken in recent times to restore the coral ecosystems, and finally you can also add your suggestions when it comes to conclusion. So that is how I will be approaching this particular question. We'll see you in next question. Thank you everyone.